There we go, we're on. Yes, people, welcome back to Process. Today we are joined by another very special guest, the head coach at the Training Club Washington, Steve Hoggy. Welcome to the podcast, mate.
Hi, mate. How are you doing?
How are we doing? All right. Lola's trying to say hello again on the podcast. I'm going to have to kick you out in a second, aren't I? I am. What's this morning been looking like down the TC?
It's been busy, mate. Been full throttle this morning. We've had a couple of sessions, just the sessions that we typically have on the timetable anyway. But we've also had St. Robert's group in, so we've been doing some pre-season stuff with those. We've had the young lads in, and then the ladies team as well. So it's been full throttle this morning, but it's action. It's always good.
Yeah, no, it looks like you've been picking things up quite a bit recently with the TC, and obviously
Yeah.
I've seen you've had a lot of football lads in as well. What other things have you been working on with them specifically, like focus for obviously the pre-season lads going into the season?
So, I mean, we've previously worked with Berkeley Town and as a pre-season block as well. And it's pretty much just incorporating in the strength work. We literally discussing with the guys there, and you'll find that those who are physically fit, have good fitness levels, and might be able to run track all day, get a few months into the season, and then ended up injured because there's no robustness there, there's no stability, there's no kind of rigidity of the muscles or the tissue. So incorporating a little bit of strength work in, as much as it's pre-season, will obviously extend the offer to be able to get them in to do some strength work or help them throughout the season, because it's important not just to box off 6 weeks worth of pre-season strength work and then neglect it again for the rest of the season. It's an important part, and I've worked with athletes in the past, whether they're cyclists, runners, in order to improve their time or their goal or whatever. And they're doing like, what am I doing wrong? And it's like, I'm running 5 times a week. Why am I going wrong? And you're like, well, because you're running 5 times a week, let's knock 2 or 3 of those on the head and incorporate some strength work. And you'll find out, 1, you'll probably be performing better, but 2, you'll be a lot less injury prone. It's important to find that balance, I guess. So that's what we're trying to implement. And it's only been the first session today, so went down well. Some strong basic movements, just developing movement patterns at this stage.
Yeah, it's good that they're getting it in early as well, because I know a lot of young athletes, I know it's started to kind of become a lot more popular these days, with more accepted, I would probably say, within football. Like old school days, it was like run. That's all you needed. You only needed football fitness, never mind all the gym stuff, but it's been a lot more accepted. So the more that young athletes, if there's any young athletes lifting, there's a lot of good coaches out there like yourself who have like gyms that are putting these sessions on for you. So make the most of them, especially when you're young. Learn the movement patterns, and then it will transition over to the pitch. And like I said, it's more about injury prevention more than anything. If you can stay fit, I know myself what it's like with football. Ross will know it as well. If you stay fit, that's when obviously things kind of kick on for me. You get more opportunities. But if you pick up little niggles and stuff, that's what really limits your career. So no, it's great that they're obviously you've got a good group in. So we'll talk a bit about yourself. Talk about the football and your training stuff later on. So a bit about yourself, a bit about your background. We'll probably jump back to when you were a young lad. What was young Steve Hoggy like? Was he into sport? What did he do?
To be fair, mate, I wasn't really that into sports. Probably, I mean, I liked sports. I would play and I would participate and I would watch them and stuff as ever. But in terms of performing to a good standard or an elite level, like it wasn't particularly where I was driven. I was probably more academically, and I knew that was my strength really in terms of science, English, maths, whatever. That's where I delved my energy, was more in terms of developing that. So in terms of sport, weird really how I'm now a PT or coach or however you want to label it, because it's been a good journey. But yeah, younger, I was dead skinny, dead insecure. I've got 2 older sisters and an older brother, so I'm the youngest out of the 4 of us. So I was always the skinny one, the one that would get thrown around. Me and my brother ended up in a scrap. He would absolutely knock me, no bother. And again, like further down the line now, tables have turned, so it's all good. But yeah, it was never really strength. Didn't have any prowess, fitness-wise. I'd probably run all day, but that's probably because I was skinny, lean. Didn't really have anything about me really. Could get pushed off the ball if I played football, but I would run all day.
Yeah, I think that's a lot of the time when I talk to people on these podcasts and stuff, they did come from that sort of, like, I was either massively overweight or I was really skinny. Like for me, it was I was really tall and skinny. I just shot up and didn't fill out. So a lot of the time, that's how they get into it. And it's weird how there's such a difference now, like 10, 15 years ago, oh, it was like this. And now a bodybuilder, whatever it is, and I'm an athlete, something like that. You just make that change. So like, if anybody is listening, they're in that kind of early transition stage where like, maybe I don't want to go to the gym because I'm a little bit skinny or I'm overweight and I'm scared of kind of taking that step and I don't think I can make the change. Like, I'd probably say 95% of people who are successful within sport, within, I don't know, bodybuilding, whatever it is, come from something like that. There's obviously the 5% or maybe the 1% who are just naturally always being genetically like that. But 95, 99% of the time, it's going to be because of that. So yeah, it's good, kind of really good to see. So what did you do school-wise, education, college, anything like that after school?
So from school, I didn't pick GCSE PE. I actually picked French instead. This sums me up really, to be fair. It's long story short, there was a lad who was a good mate of mine, and he was like, oh mate, I've picked French because I want to do French, but nobody will do it with me. And I was like, all right. So I picked French. So I sacrificed one of my options just to help somebody else out, which is just me all over really. But I got an E in French. Struggle to speak a word of it now. But it's a GCSE, innit? And then after that, I went to college. So I left school wanting to be an English teacher. So wanted to be an English teacher, went to college doing English lit, enjoyed poetry and reading books and ripping them apart. And then in college, it was absolutely nothing like that. I think we did Canterbury Tales and stuff and William Chaucer, and it was just not what I envisioned at all. And then I was also doing PE, psychology and IT along with it. And I was like, which one of these do I enjoy the most? And it was PE all around. It was the academic side of it though. The biology, the physiology of it really drew me in. So I was like, right, let's do sport and exercise science diploma in that.
Yeah.
Ran with that because I was told it was more stats, it was more numbers, it was more theory-based and stuff. Ran with that, then was like, right, I'm going to be a PE teacher instead then. I want to teach. Then went to Sunderland Uni, did my degree there, sport and exercise sciences, and then went into Durham Uni, so did a PGC there and qualified as a PE teacher, and was doing my PT actually at the same time as that. And that's when I kind of decided, like, this is why I'm going to run with PT as opposed to teaching. Is it was all the red tape, it was all the hoops you had to jump through. It was all kind of, it wasn't about developing these young people. It was about getting a 99% pass grade. It was about how can we get the most people with the most qualifications, rather than developing them for life skills or personally. It was about developing the numbers. So once that cohort left, that was just a number that left. It wasn't people. And I was like, I'm not doing this for the next 30 years. Whereas the PT, I feel like I can actually have an impact on people, and I can visually see how it improves that individual person in a different scenario. And it's obviously a big scope. I mean, as you know, mate, you work with so many different types of people, and you can go from one dynamic to another. Somebody who's really amped and like, right, I need to get as strong as I possibly can. Then your next client might be, right, I've actually got this niggle. I just want to be able to move well. And that different dynamic, not just for goals, but for personalities, I thrive off it. And I mean, 5-6 years down the line, I'm still doing it and still pushing it, trying to do it better and better and better. And kind of gone full circle, really, because we've had opportunities with schools and colleges where they've invited us in as under the heading of the training club to actually have an impact on these young not athletes, but young people, to give them life skills or develop them in other areas. And I'm like, well, this is what I wanted all along. So yeah, it's kind of gone full circle, which is good. But had I not kind of just chased this and what I feel like I was drawn to, I might not have ever been in that position.
Yeah, it's worrying when you talked about like the school system itself, how it's literally just ticking boxes and getting them the marks and stuff like that. I'm very, like, obviously I kind of know what it's like, the school system, just ticking boxes. If you get an A in whatever it is, that means you're good. But that doesn't correlate into real life. And especially if you end up going down the self-employed route and something, it's completely different world. I'm very surprised that the school system hasn't changed that, because there's a lot of people who are very creative and not so much like academic, but they've got that creative side, or maybe they're good at sport, or they've got some other kind of interest and stuff that aren't like maths, English, because a lot, honestly, probably say 75% of the things that I've learned in school I probably haven't used. Now, even like my PE course that I've done, like I can't really remember anything that I learned there. There might have been a few things that I just generically, or where your bones are on your body, whatever it is, but the system does need to change. And it's even worse that it's pushing a teacher like yourself who has such a passion for helping people. It's pushing you to change your career to try and find a path that you can actually help people in the way that you want to help people, rather than the way that they've got the system set out for you, which is like even worse. It's pushing the people who actually want to help out of the system. So maybe there's something like that obviously needs to be changed there, because people are going down the wrong route like you have with the PT to actually help people the way that you want. So it is massively worrying.
It is, mate. And I mean, I remember doing like we did like an off-campus thing where it was a weekend stay, and we went to it was a downhill, I think, and it was with GCSE year 10s, and it was over a weekend. So we did rock climbing and canoeing and stuff like that, and it was awesome. It was to develop the GCSEs, and over that course of the weekend, you saw the students in a different light, and they got to see you in a different light, like a little bit more personable. And I think as you build up that rapport with people, you can have more of an impact. So then I thought, right, developing this rapport, now when they're in classroom, I can connect with them on a different level that I wouldn't have been able to. But because of this weekend, again, they get relaxed and it's outside a classroom. I mean, my surname's Hoggett, but they would start calling me Hoggy as a nickname, not realizing that that's my actual nickname. But so then when we came back into schools, walking through a corridor, I remember one of the lads saying, "Hi, Hoggy, mate," just dead friendly. I was like, "Hiya, Harry, mate," whatever his name might have been. And I got pulled in, and from a teacher saying, like, "Do not let a student call you that." And I was like, "What?" And I mean, I remember being at school, and I mean, the nicknames, I went to Pennywell School, by the way. The nicknames we had for teachers were not that nice, really. But yeah. And I was like, "Really? Like, he's only called me a nickname." Like, I was like, no, I don't mind. And he was like, no, it's not like you don't mind. It's like, it's not professional. And I was like, really? I was like, is it really worth sacrificing this rapport I've got with a student for me to then have to speak to the student, go, Harry, again, I'm using that name as a pseudonym, you can't call me that. Like, I'm not going to sacrifice that rapport. Like, it's not worth it. And then it kind of paid me back, really, because later on in the year, when you get assessed by your mentor in uni, they come into your lessons and stuff. And I had this same the same cohort, and they knew I was getting assessed just by the atmosphere. And they were absolutely on point. Like, they were asking questions to make me look good, and they were well behaved. And I feel like you wouldn't have been able to get that connection with the student had you not built up that rapport in other avenues. But that's what I loved about it. And that's what was kind of not allowed almost.
Yeah.
And it was allowed to, right, they need to hit learning objective 1, 2, 3, make sure they learn them by the end of the lesson. It's like not robots, they're not on a conveyor belt.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Like,
we're all human. I know we're all humans at the end of the day. We're designed to build relationships, and like it's the same with like clients. If you're like dead strict and like, right, we're not even like having human communication skills. It right, come into a session, warm up, right, we're gonna go and back squat, we're gonna do leg press. They just not having like, oh, like, how was your weekend? What did you do? How's the kids? All that stuff. If you're not like that, they're gonna be like, right, I don't really want to work for him, and you're probably gonna lose them. It's the same with the kids. I don't understand how you can't have that relationship with them, building up a rapport, like you said, and they're going to be a lot more open with things. That they could even be having troubles outside of school, which is why they're not doing the homework, like with family and stuff. And they might be able to actually come say to you, you know what, like Hoggy, I'm struggling a little bit here. Whereas if you're just ticking the boxes and stuff, it's very almost like 18th century, like very old fashioned, really, really old fashioned. But I think they've got to move with the time. We can't, like, everything's got to adapt, like the way that technology, the way that training's adapted. The same with the school systems, the same with anything really. Everything's got to catch up. So hopefully, there's probably schools implementing things that are a bit more open relationships now. But it is scary because, like I said, it's pushed you kind of out of that career path, which is really don't want really.
On the positive, like I say, when it came full circle and we got an opportunity with like a college and a school, they wanted us to come in from like an external source to be able to come in and to try and impose that change. And I thought that was really refreshing. It's something that gets me really excited because, like I say, that's the impact I wanted to have in any way. So it's not all doom and gloom, I guess. I guess it is kind of beginning to change, which is good. It could be exciting after being so like a little bit like you see old school kind of 18th century-esque to now a bit more free flowing thinking. Like we're in a generation where there's so many entrepreneurs, there's so many young people looking to do their own unique thing. People are not in the mindset of just going, you go, you leave school, you get a job, you just pay your bills, pay your taxes, whatever, and then you die. It's not about that. It's about people, again, allowing to be themselves. And like, it's all about, oh, mate, you lied to me.
Blackout.
Nice.
Don't worry about it. Is it motion set there or go back and have to clap your hands every so often?
I'm going to have to start doing this, yeah, mate.
Focusing it down. Yeah, but like you were saying, that people have the freedom to do and be whatever they want now. They don't have to kind of just go through life the way that it's planned out, like you go to school, like you said. So having that freedom, and like I think the world needs to be I think it is adapting a bit more with people being more open on like social media and stuff. And like in terms of this podcast, like if like the lights went off and something bad happened, for example, like it doesn't really matter if things like that don't go to plan, because like it just kind of shows that you're human in a sense as well, rather than like being like a robot and getting everything right. Like it doesn't have to be like that. The same goes with like obviously having your personality and being a lot more open with things and building relationships like we were talking about. But yeah, it's good that you've obviously found that different career path that you can do what you exactly want. It's kind of ironic that you might end up working with people who you were working with at school. They might end up coming to your facility now, training with you, and you're affecting their life the way that you want it to. It's kind of the way that life kind of works. It's weird, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So after like obviously teaching career, when did that come to an end, and what was the kind of process, your thoughts behind it, and how did it come about?
So I was doing like it was crazy, again, going back to the teaching aspect as well, but I was doing my PT at the same time as I was doing my teaching degree, which probably is not a wise choice, but because the teaching degree, the PGC, as much as I've been in education a lot prior to that, like degree and stuff over 3 years, this 1 year PGC was the hardest year in academia that I'd ever done. So then to throw myself into doing PT and start doing that at the same time was probably not my best idea, but yeah, it paid off, I guess. So on a morning, I would be up at 6, right, get to school for 7, get ready for reg or whatever, sorting out your lessons, pre-prepare. So as doing PE, you would have to set a session up ready for them to come in. So you would have to then go to reg, then come do your lessons all the way through. Now, again, as PE, you'd be the subjects that are going to run the extracurricular after school. So you'd run the sports club. So your day might not be 9 to 3, which a teaching job absolutely is not. But then PE, you're then running all the way through until about 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, in the evening. And then I would go and help co-run some group sessions on an evening. And then get home at about 9 o'clock, sort out my lesson plans and stuff for the next day, rinse and repeat, and then work for part-time on a weekend. Like, my head was blagged. But then at the end of my teaching year, that's when I was like, weighing up my options. I was like, right, I'm doing this PT thing. It's all right. It's doing steady. Or I'm doing this teaching thing, which is a good, respectable job. There's loads of holidays, as they say. And yeah, I do enjoy it, but jumping through the loopholes, can I see myself doing that for the next 30 years? And that kind of tipped the favouring towards the coaching and the PT. And then I kind of ran with it. And I went from where I started to then a gym in Castletown in Sunderland, to then another gym in Sunderland, which was Performance Fitness Centre, which is where I met Ross. And I mainly went there because there was loads of coaches that were loads better than me. And I thought, right, if there's anywhere I can develop, like if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. So jump in there, and these coaches are going to help develop me, which wasn't like my intention, but was kind of like an ulterior motive in the back of my mind. Not only is it an awesome gym and stuff, but there was awesome coaches there to be able to pick their brains and learn off. And then 4 years down the line, like I say, I met Ross. We opened the training club, and then I've recently just came full time in the training club. So it's been a long journey and a long process, but I feel like I've always had a kind of a linear passage in the direction that I've been pushing towards, and just aspiring to be better and to perform better and stuff.
Yeah. You know, when you made that decision to kind of obviously leave the teaching and pursue the PT career, was there much judgment from peers, family, girl, missus at the time? I don't know if you had one at the time, but was there any kind of like, are you sure you're doing this? Because I know a lot of people are in that mindset. It's like teaching, safe career, pension, this, that, and the other. Like you're safe. It's very safe, which people, I say old fashioned people are very much like that's what you need to do. Whereas there might be some people who are like, you know what, it's your passion, go and pursue what you really truly want to do. Were people
Yeah.
sitting on the fence with it, or did you have any judgment at all?
So, I mean, I think I'm always somebody who likes to challenge myself, and somebody who wants to kind of go in my own direction. So if I felt this, it's hard to describe, but this almost pulse to push towards the PT as opposed to the teaching. I mean, I dabbled in the teaching. It's not that I could go, right, I couldn't get in, I can't do it, or I'd sat that off. I had a go at it, and about 3/4, halfway through the year, I was like, I'm not feeling this at all, but I'm not somebody to quit something, right? I'll see it through. I kind of already made my mind up about halfway, 3/4 of the way through the teaching degree, that's not what I was going to pursue, but I would definitely see it through, because that's the task I'd set myself. And don't get me wrong, I definitely use some of the skills and abilities that I learned from that to help me coach, whether that's kind of my teacher-esque approach or the way I kind of explain something. I definitely feel like the teaching aspect plays a role there. But this kind of burning desire, like I say, was within me to kind of travel it. And if I've got that in my mind, that's what I'm going to run with. But I too totally understand what you mean. Like any outside influence, there's definitely going to be outside influence, or people kind of going like, you should do this. Because I mean, like I say, this other option was to be a teacher. It's a very respectable job. It's well paid. It's structured. It's organised. You'll get a mortgage, no problem. Pension, no problem. X, Y, Z. Like it's got all these bells and whistles. But then it's not something I really want to do. And if I'm going to find this rougher patch, but it's the road less travelled, the tougher option, but it's what I want to do, then that's still going to be the option I go down. Which was, like I say, in my mind, the right choice to chase down. Like I say, it's took me full circle, really, but it's good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was going to say, a lot of people probably might take the safer option. 30, 40 years down the line, they'll look back and think, fuck me, I wish I didn't do this. Like, I wish I went there. I wish I went the route that I wanted. And I know what it's like. Like, it's going to be a lot harder doing the route, like, especially the self-employed route and trying to build your own business and all that stuff. There's so many different diameters and different, like, kind of areas you need to develop in yourself, not just in terms of PT, but in terms of marketing, business, like the social media side of things. Like everything, like all this additional stuff that like we're doing right now, like the podcast and stuff, you're not getting paid. You don't get paid. It's like, for the hours that you work in these normal jobs, you're getting paid 10, 15, 20 pounds an hour, whatever it is. For this, it's like, whatever I put in doesn't directly correlate what I get out of it. With some things, absolutely. If you just got, it's just so many different things. So it is a lot harder. But if you love it, if you've got a passion for it, like it just things happen. Like sometimes you wake up, be like, "Fuck me, I've got a long day. I've got to do this, that, and the other." Like I don't have to do this video and post on social media, but I know that I need to. But it's it's just the passion to get it, because you know that you need to do it is why you end up doing it. But it's I couldn't see myself being stuck in like the kind of just normal 9 to 5.
For me, like there'll be an underlying reason why people are certainly programmed like that. And I think mine, like I've kind of like questioned and queried myself a lot. And this is going to go down a rabbit hole, but I mean, that's what it's for, I guess.
Go for it.
For me, it's reflection on like the way I was brought up. So for instance, my dad, I've got a lot of respect for, a lot of love for, but my dad's done the same job since he was 18. He's now like 55, 56. And he's still doing that. He's still in that industry, still doing that job. Obviously does it to a very high standard and he's very good at it. But it's not particularly what he wanted to do. He just knew he left school. That's what people did. They go into work and then just keep cracking on. And to me, I was like, nah, I'm not driven like that. Even when I went to college, my dad was like, you should just get a job, become an apprentice engineer or gas engineer. There's loads of electrician or something. There's loads of money in it. And I was like, it's not what I'm going to do. I was like, I don't care if the money's crap. Like I'm going to go somewhere where like my mind and my passion, my heart takes me. And then went to uni and stuff. And like I see, when I went to Durham to become a teacher, as much as I got halfway through or 3/4 way through, I'd set this task to myself to finishing it. And it was almost if I did drop out, which I don't think I ever would have, it was I told you so from my dad. And in my mind, I was like, nah, I've just got to do me. This is what I've set myself. And then it's gone again full circle, using that phrase as much as I possibly can. But now he speaks to me and he's like, you know what it is? On reflection, he's like, I'm really proud of what you've achieved and stuff. You just had your mind on something and you've just gone for it. And in the back of my mind, I'm like, mate, you're the main reason why I pushed so hard is because you told me not to do that.
Oh,
But yeah, so
yeah,
yeah, mate,
everyone has their own reasons like behind things. I was gonna try to dive into it, like what was the reason behind you kind of really doing it? Because everyone's got the reason. Like, mine's obviously probably injury background. Like, the reason that I love what I do is because I think I've got a soft spot for helping people. Like my missus always says to me, if there's anybody's got a knee, back, ankle injury, I just help them out as much as I can because I know I've been there myself. But I've also got to think because obviously I've always played football. My dad's always been massive football fan, always loved me playing. Like he still wants me to play now, realistically. I know he does still want me to play, but I want to kind of get to that point where I can get to a certain point and I've got like they call it like financial freedom, or at least like get to a point where I'm happy and I can provide for other people. And it can say to them, you know what, like I'm proud of what you do. He tells me he's proud all the time, but I want to get to that point that he can be like, you know what, you've made the right choice. I'm really happy you've done that kind of thing. As much as he's going to hate to say that, because I know he will. He probably will listen to this, so I know he'll hate it. But that's kind of where I want to go. So it's great that everybody's got your reasons and you're talking about it. It's probably why you want to help others so much because you've kind of had that. Your dad's been doing that sort of thing, but you understand that the journey that you want to go on is what everyone else is telling you not to do. But anybody can do whatever they want. So helping people on their path is definitely the most important thing.
Absolutely.
100%. I didn't even ask, when did you start getting into training along that whole journey from in terms of gym training? Like what was the first sort of things that you did fitness wise, gym wise?
So I mean, I literally went to I went in a pure gym and there was DW gym at the time in Sunderland. And yeah, honestly, like touching on here why it is what you do, this will get into it really. I was probably about 23, 24, and it was purely therapy. It wasn't to get jacked, it wasn't to get ripped or anything, or it wasn't for any particular reason. And it was literally just therapy. So I would go relentlessly, religiously by myself. And then when people would see that consistency, I had groups of friends and they'll go, oh, can I come train with you? Yeah, absolutely. This is what time I go. This is what I'm going to be doing. X, Y, Z, laid out in front of me. And they would come and they would train with me for a couple of weeks and then veer off. And I would just keep cracking on. And then there would be another friend going, oh, mate, I want to train with you. And then they would come train with us. And then eventually people were like, you know what it is? You'd be really good PT and stuff. And I was like, nah, I couldn't do it. I haven't got the confidence. I haven't got the charisma or anything. Just self-doubt, as we all have, I guess. And then to a point where, like I say, it became a little bit more of a passion. It started off as therapy and it became a hobby, became a passion. And then I did kind of like eventually listen to that many people telling me you should be a PT, you'd be good at it. Thought, yeah, let's go, let's have a crack. And again, like pays off again. Yeah. But the reason, what I mean by it is it's therapy. Going back to me being this kind of skinny, insecure, no charisma, no confidence, never really had anything physically about me, or kind of always self-doubt myself for whatever reason. There's all those thoughts that I guess each of us all have to a degree, and then started to kind of benefit from it, and that's what I mean by the therapy. And again, this will go down a rabbit hole. I'll probably touch on it a little bit later, but we've all got, like I say, these little kind of thoughts and stuff. We've got these demons in my head, and whether it's self-negative talk or whatever, to different degrees. And then this therapy would help kind of reprieve them. And then I thought, on reflection, I was like, right, if I do this, if I'm being a PT, I'm effectively, I don't want anybody else to be feeling like that. Don't want anybody to be feeling insecure, low, doubting themselves. Confidence, which is something that kind of we can breed, or others can breed for us. And I want to be able to help people unlock that in themselves, because I mean, if I can unlock it in myself, who 15 years ago, I mean, when I was 15, like a teenager, or even as a young adult, like in my prime or whatever, like late teens, early 20s in my prime, I had nothing about me in terms of charisma, confidence, physically, and my only strength was academia. And I was like, how can I use this to best be able to help and serve other people so that they don't have to feel this level of lowness or insecurity that I've kind of lived through. Mm-hmm. So that kind of gives you the full understanding of when I started, probably why I started, was to suppress these little negative thoughts and stuff about myself. to then bringing me through this journey into why I still want to be able to be better at it, because I want to be able to help more people. I want to be able to help more people better and have more of an impact. And the way that I found that I do that is becoming better and better at what I do, and to bring my voice louder and louder and wider. Yeah. So,
I love that. I love talking to people who I can tell have such a passion for fitness, and their story about like getting into fitness is so inspiring, just because the kind of like, say like a dark place, or the place that kind of you felt a little bit lost and you were insecure and stuff like that, and how much fitness has kind of developed you, not just like physically but also mentally. Like I truly believe that like proper training can massively unlock so much potential in people and bring so much more out of people than just like building muscle or getting fitter or getting stronger, whatever it is. It can change you massively mentally. The ability for you to go to a dark place within your training and push yourself and kind of go to places where you didn't think you were, that you could previously. Like that transfers so much over into life, into business, into being able to put yourself out there. Like, I don't know, going and speaking in front of a big audience, or like even just doing like a small group of like 10, imagine like your first time doing a small group class. Like I remember the first class that I did when I first started PT, and it was like 15 people or something. I was shitting myself, like stuff like that though. But like this podcast, mate, like we had a chat beforehand. There's like, I was like, are you nervous? I was like, oh, a little bit. I was like, mate, I get nervous for every single one of my podcasts, but I know that like certain things that I've done in my training, like there's like workouts I've done in the past where you get a little bit nervous for beforehand. Like I used to hate running, so I always used to get nervous for that running sort of thing. But like once you do something that you get nervous for, get through it, get onto the other side, you're like, God, I feel fucking good for doing it. That's why I keep doing these podcasts. As much as beforehand, I'm like, oh, I could cancel, or like, I don't know if I'm going to mess up the intro. Like, I've messed up intros before in podcasts. I'm like, oh, I'm going to do it again here. Like, I've got my notes in. Have I slept well? Am I feeling good for it? Like, you've got all them thoughts in your head, but putting yourself into the situation, like we talked about, I think it was before the podcast, talked about putting yourself in them situations, like where you are a little bit scared and putting yourself out there, but putting yourself there, getting through it and realizing, you know what, I'm still alive, 2 feet on the ground. I might have messed up a little bit, but like I said before, you either learn from it or you do well and you kind of take a step forward. So no, credit for you obviously talking about it. It's an inspiring story for anybody who's been in that sort of place. And you were like, what was it, 23-ish, you said?
I was 23, but I mean, like I say, I've had spells like most of my from adolescent. So from being like 13, 14, was a big kind of, I'm going to call it a flare up if you like, but I'll explain what I mean. And then again through college, again through uni, and then again like little spells early, I'm going to say early adulthood, but it's going to be like mid 20s. And these flare-ups, like I say, are these voices, whether they're negative self-talks or whether it's kind of I'm beating myself up. It's difficult to explain, and like I say, and it would lead me. I mean, I'll touch on this really, and it would lead me to self-harm effectively, mate. And like I say, right from a young age, from like 13, 14, and it would get to that, and it's crazy because I mean, again, try not to use that term really, but that was my only escape. So whether it was using like a blade or whatever, and again, it's tough to comprehend, but that was my release. The best way I can give you an analogy is if you imagine a container with loads of pressure, and then all you have to do is kind of create a little opening and the pressure completely releases. That's the only way I can kind of explain it. And that's how I felt. So whenever I would kind of self-harm or anything, I would feel this pressure kind of release. And then training kind of helped replace that in a way, because like you say, I can push myself to some dark places. I really challenge myself. And then once I've done a certain challenge, and it's the hardest thing I've ever physically had to do, I've then set the new bar. So that's right now, that's your tolerance level. Right now, whenever you do anything else and it's below that, you've still got that bar. So recently did that Hadrian's Wall walk, which is probably the toughest mentally and physically thing I've ever did. That's my new bar. But I mean, I didn't even get it complete. I did like 3/4 of it. My body, like, I was like dehydrating and stuff. But that's my new bar. So when I do it again, and I'll make sure I get it done, that'll be my new bar. So anything below it is tolerable. I can get through it. I think, like I say, it's been a learning process mentally, really, to go, right, well, self-harm is the only thing I could do at 13, 14, still not finding anything else better in college years, 17, 18, still not finding anything at like 21, 22, and then like 23, 24, finding this kind of fitness thing, like this seems to be ticking the box. Like again, and that's what I mean by there'll be people out there who don't want to voice this and stuff, and I'm at a point now I'm comfortable to be able to talk about it. But there'll be people out there who are enduring the same sort of thing, these same levels of insecurities or negative self-talks, demons, if you want to call them that. And I want to be able to help people through that. And there is different other options available. And like, see, fitness is one that's massively helped me. Tackling your nutrition is as much as it sounds like a typical health and fitness thing. There's the light net.
Perfect. Double clap. Hey, back on.
Sounds like a typical thing to do, but I mean, eating right and stuff, it just seems to be ticking loads of boxes. And a thing that I kind of learnt about was this bucket theory, and you might have heard this, but effectively you've got this bucket, I'll use a coffee cup, and then you've got loads of water going into it. That's all the stresses of your life and stuff. And you need to be putting holes into this bucket, otherwise it's going to overflow. And that's when I have these flare-ups. So I need to be putting holes in it. So the gym is a massive hole for me. Helping people is another massive hole for me. Walking the dogs or spending time with my missus, my family, massive holes for me to relieve this pressure and this water overflowing. Now, yeah, you've got work stresses, but I mean, if you absolutely love what you do like we do, it's not particularly a heavy flow of water into your bucket. So it's all about managing that. And like I say, this is an opportunity for me to be able to help people create holes in the bucket, if you like.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you talking about that, because obviously it takes a lot, and especially being men, it's not the stereotype of talking about this sort of thing, but this is the opportunity. This is what the podcast is about, bringing them stuff out. So I appreciate you talking about that. But you talked about them sort of levels, how you were at that 13, 14 down here, then you started building yourself back up, going to the gym, and like the boundaries and like never ending. Like you should always be trying to progress. So like that's what happens with too many people. They get to they might have a little bit of inspiration when they're like 20, 21, like early 20s, and they'll get into this like kind of state of their life. Maybe they're in a job that they're not too happy about, or maybe they're in a relationship they're not too happy about, or the body's not in the shape they want to, but they're just kind of maintaining in like that position for like the rest of their life. They don't really kind of achieve anything. They're probably like, they might have the occasional day where they're a little bit happier. There might be a Saturday night or something. They live for that Saturday night, because the rest of the week, the Monday to Friday, they don't like. But if you've got that mindset where it's like, just you always want to constantly level up, and you set like, even just, it could start with your training. That's what the big thing I'm a believer in. You obviously mentioned it yourself. With your training, it could start off just going to the gym once a week, or it could be even just getting outside and going for a walk once a day, like 5 minutes a day. Then the next day, the next week, you're like, right, I've done that every single day, 5 minutes. I'm going to do 10 minutes today. I'm going to do 15. You know what? I'm going to sign up to that gym and like put myself in that situation. And then it just builds up. And then before you know it, you could be entering yourself to do the Great North Run, or doing a marathon, or like doing Hadrian's Wall, whatever it is. Like it just starts. And it doesn't matter what age you start it. Like you said, you kind of really got into it. Like 23 was when you started it. I'm the same. I started PT, and what am I now, 24? I started 22. So I was a little bit later on as well. So everybody can start. You don't have to start at 14 and like do it. You have 6 years under the belt by the time you're 20. Start at like 30. If you're 30 years old, like I've got a client, Colin, he started with me when he was probably 68. He's 70 now. He's never exercised in his life in school. Never. Like he said to me, I'd done nothing. He was like really busy with work, really career focused business stuff. And now he's retired. He's like, I need to put my health first for a little bit. So he's went from he's went from doing literally nothing. He could barely do 5 minutes on the cross trainer when we first started. Like it was the first session we done in. I was like, all right, we'll just do a steady little walk on the treadmill. And we'll probably go on the cross just to get him moving. And he was silent for 5 minutes on the cross trainer. I was like, right, okay, we're starting from scratch here. Now we're at the point where he's like, he can deadlift like 60 kilograms. We've got a goal to get him 70 kilograms at the age of 70. So he's just turned 70 now. And then he's like bench pressing, God knows what. He can move. He's doing he's got one of the fastest 500 meter times on the skier in my gym. Done 500 meters in like 2 minutes on the skier, which is like decent going. So like whatever age you're at, you might not be happy at your body. You're 20, you might not be happy where you're at when you're 40, but just starting kind of like you can change your life at any age. But like I said, thanks for sharing your story anyway, mate. I appreciate that. So we'll talk about your PT side of things. So first job was at Castleford, you said, your first PT kind of job.
It was in Castletown. So
Castletown, sorry.
that was technically the second gym. The first gym I'll not name for whatever purposes. Well, that was so first off started it was a small group training facility, really, actually, funny enough. But it was dead basic, and there was only like a limited timetable. So it was literally drop-in sessions. So there was 3 hours. You could come in between 5 and half 6, half 6 and half 7, half 8. Come in, there'd be a drop-in, and there'd be a workout on the board, and it was pretty much like left to your own devices. And when I look back, I mean, I say this all the time as well. If you look back at where you were last year and you don't cringe a little bit, whether it's your programming or what you were doing or kind of what you were spending your time with, and you don't cringe a little bit, you haven't really grown. You have hit that point of comfortness and stagnation. So when I look back, I'm like, oh God, why was that even a thing? But it was. I guess it was the stepping stone. And with it being the first gym I was at, I didn't know any different. After that though, the guy who was running it and stuff was on like X, Y, and Z versus like enhancements and stuff, we'll call them. And I was like, whoa, this is not me. Like, so I'm going to take a little bit of a step back. So took a little bit of a step back, started training by myself again. And then pretty much told me like, this isn't going to work out. I was like, fine, not a problem. Went elsewhere, went to a gym called SR2, which I don't even think exists anymore. I think they've kind of set up a different thing. Was there for a year, and it was really, really slow actually in terms of PT. And I think if somebody is a new PT or just about to start doing it, you don't worry. Like, I mean, if your first year is relatively slow, hang in there because it does pick up. And I think there's something like a stat where 90% of new PTs are not PTs anymore within the first 6 to 9 months. And that's crazy. I think just people maybe lose faith in themselves, doubt themselves. Like I say, just keep pushing or try and develop yourself to a different standard than what your peers are around you. And then you're always offering something a little bit better. Different tangent there. But then after that, that's when I went to Performance Fitness Centre. And that was probably when I hit that point of self-realization and goes, right, this is going a little bit too slow. How do I change this up? How do I develop myself? Right. Well, he's a gym I've got an opportunity to work at. There's high standard of coaches available. Let's jump in there. Yeah, the idea is I'm not going to be the best. I'll not be the busiest, but I'll be able to learn from those. And then 3-4 years down the line, that might be big-headed, and some people might disagree. It's their opinion. This is mine. But I felt like I worked my way up and became like probably the better of the PTs that were in that facility. And then met Ross, and he obviously has this kind of fire at him, this drive. It's contagious, and I was like, right, introduce myself to this lad and see where his head's at. And it wasn't probably until the first lockdown where this facility actually got formulated or a thing. And then to think only a year later, we're already, I would say, thriving and nowhere near being satiated with where we're at. And we're always like kind of challenging each other. And I think it goes back to that. If you're in the room, if you're the smallest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. And me and Ross have got a great dynamic where we'll pluck at each other and go, right, why is this like this? What can we do with this? Have you thought about doing this? We'll always challenge each other. And I think you need that kind of accountability for one. I mean, that's what we offer for clients in any way. And two, that kind of tenacity of upgrade yourself, and give me that evidence, give me that deliverable or that measurable that you are consistently pushing for new boundaries.
Mm-hmm. No, some good points there, mate. The first thing you said about obviously your first year PT was really slow. Mine was the same. I kind of didn't really know what to do. I just didn't know like how to approach clients. Like I didn't know how to pick them up. Like I was just, everything's just a learning curve here. So, and like you said, that stat about the 90% of people cut out. It's the same with anything. I think I heard one about podcast. I think like it's something about 90% or something. But I think it's if you don't get it past the first 10 to 15 podcasts, most people just kind of cut off and leave it there. It's just kind of same if you've got to play the long game. If you kind of go in the self-employed route, you do have to, because if you think about it, the people who you hear who are successful have been doing it for at least probably 5 years minimum if they get lucky, probably 20, 30 years, most of them when they actually make it. A lot of people don't have the success till the 60, 70 sometimes. So it's just playing that long game. So like I said, you'll learn from other people, putting yourself in situations where to learn from others, because that's one thing that I kind of know I need to learn from is put myself in situations with others, because I'm very independent and I like doing things on my own. But little things like me coming to train at your gym last week, hearing your ideas and looking at what yous are doing and picking your brains and doing the podcast and stuff like this. I'm learning from yous, and people can get really comfortable, especially if you are self-employed, being in the little bubble, especially if you're kind of doing all right and you say you're making enough money to keep yourself going and you've got enough clients and you're still all right. But like I said, it's always easy to get comfortable. Always put yourself in situations. We'll touch about it in a second, like seminars, putting yourself out there. That's something that I want to do myself. Train at other gyms. Go and look at what the best gym in your area is doing. Go and maybe travel somewhere and look at the best gym in the region, the country, whatever it is. Go different places and always learn from others, because I said it's so easy to get comfortable, especially when you're kind of at that point when you're doing okay. Like you can easily stay at that point forever. But if you really want to help and impact as many people as you want, you've got to level it up that much. So when did you, so in terms of role models, we'll talk about that. In terms, obviously we'll touch on seminars and stuff. In terms of training specifically, people who you've looked up to or looked into research wise, or maybe just have inspired you in the fitness career. Obviously I know that you've got that last three questions. We'll save that to right to the end, but people who you kind of look into in seminars and stuff that you've been to previously.
I mean, in terms of, like I say, when I first got into it, it wasn't that I kind of clocked this Men's Health magazine or this bodybuilder or whatever. It was more so like, again, like therapy. But then, like, see, when you get into it a little bit, you do kind of start going, oh, well, he's doing pretty good things, or he's doing pretty good things. But, God, there's loads, isn't there, really?
Yeah.
But there's loads of different dynamics as well. And I feel like two totally opposite ends of the spectrum will be like people who are like, maybe studied health and fitness, but sport. Obviously, you've got like Arnie, obviously you've got to mention him really, which I bet you loads of people do. But I mean, what I like about Arnold Schwarzenegger is that he was doubted, and he was kind of like, when I've watched like videos countless who hasn't, and he was labeled like, I want to be a bodybuilder, I want to be the best bodybuilder in the world, and his mates and everyone mocked him, his peers totally doubted him, and he kept pushing to prove his point. He had this vision, like I say, and he just went straight for it. And then he says, right, I want to be an actor in Hollywood. He was told, like, you can't, you've got a ridiculous voice, X, Y, and Z. And that's what got him the role as the Terminator, because he had this weird voice. And then he was told, you can't be like in politics. He did all that. I just think, not even as a sports mindset, but just his general mindset is, if I'm going to do something, I'm going to put my absolute all into it, and I'm going to perform it to a good standard. So I think you've got to really admire that. But then I see, like, other ends of the spectrum, people like Bruce Lee or Muhammad Ali, like, they're people who come into mind who have got like X amount of quotes. Like, all three of those people technically have really get quoted all the time. But Bruce Lee, somebody who owned his craft, developed his own style of martial arts and stuff, and literally dedicated his life to it. To be performing at something to a really high standard. And then you've got someone, again, Muhammad Ali, who we all know. But what he did really well was he was a thinker as well. So he wasn't just able to physically perform. He had a fight, Rumble in the Jungle, with George Foreman, who was a better fighter at the time. And he knocked him out. And it was like nobody had ever gone more than 3 rounds with George Foreman before that. And Muhammad Ali played mind games with them and outthought them, and that's what won him that fight. But again, these three different individuals have all got their own kind of unique aspects. But what really inspires me about them is the dedication, the application, and the consistency and persistence of executing what their mindset's on to achieve their goals. And I think that's what inspires me.
Just a relentless mindset. That's what I like. The word I use is relentless. It's just like, no matter what people say, no matter what happens, kind of thing. You know what? I'm getting where I want to go. If you've got that mindset, it's dangerous, because it's kind of like everyone's got their own ego, and everyone's got that sort of. You've got to have an ego. I think if you are especially in the fitness industry these days, you've got to have a little bit of it, because if not, like, people are just going to trample all over you. You've got to be like, you know what? Like, I'm going to make mistakes. I might disagree with people, or some people might disagree with me. But if I'm nowhere, if I've got a path, you've got to kind of push down that route and just keep on going, no matter what kind of comes your way. So definitely. In terms of training specifically, what would you say your style of coaching, your style of training, you're like, I say like training philosophy, obviously you're not like Potter Quinn or anything like that, but hey, you never know, you might be one day, mate, you never know. The Hoggy.
Um,
The infamous Hoggy.
I mean, I think initially it was probably, like I say, maybe it's your first year, you're not really sure. I mean, I remember sitting down with a friend of mine who literally does marketing for a living, and she was like going through all these questions and stuff, expecting me to like fully understand my brand. And that first conversation, I was like, I don't know. And in terms of like what's your demographic? And I was like, people, just people. And you just want to help everyone. But I think the more and more you get into it, the more and more you refine your niche and stuff, and you find out what you're good at or whatever. And don't get me wrong, I do still just want to help people. But then when you're like, how do you, I'm trying to think how to word this.
You do have to have a niche in the fitness industry because it's so saturated. Like you've got to have I think to start out with, you probably do have to kind of help as many people as you can. Literally, when you start out as a PT, you want as many clients as possible. So you're probably going to take a few who it's not really your style of training, but you learn from it. You learn to work with different demographic, different age groups and stuff. And then down the line, you hopefully do kind of pick up something that one that you like a type of client that you enjoy training, and two, the one that like you feel like you work best with as well.
Absolutely. I mean, that's kind of thing I was thinking as well. Like, so you try different methods and stuff, like you said, because of the different clientele, and you would find out which one you'd be particularly strong at. And actually, relatively recently, had a client define the way that I train as being a bit more holistic, and I thought that was quite an interesting term to put on like a train style. And I think I probably agree in at the training club we do a lot of bodybuilding times functional fitness, trying to create like a well-rounded athletic individual that can move well and has good sense of well-being. And I think that moving well and sense of well-being is really important, and that's something that I kind of practice myself. So I might not be the strongest in the gym, but I'll definitely, I'm quite proud of how I can move and how I can coordinate my body and how I can kind of perform. And I might probably, I think it's important not to be pushing too much intensity so that you risk of injury or X, Y, Z, or you kind of compensate for whatever, or hitting that sweet spot and just refining that. And it's such a kind of fine line sweet spot. I think under intensity, you're not stimulating the tissue enough, you're just kind of spinning your wheels. Too much intensity, I mean, that for me is not where I'm at. I mean, I'm not a bodybuilder, I'm not a prep coach or anything like that. So for me, moving well, sense of well-being, and being a bit more of an all-rounder is kind of what I push for. And like I say, that's why we combine elements of bodybuilding for hypertrophy, stimulate tissue, correct movement patterns, but also functional fitness, in that people can actually do these movements and can feel the benefit in day-to-day life. And to me, that's probably what's more popular to maybe a larger demographic. And that kind of ticks the box for me in wanting to help everyone. Like I say, so yeah.
Yeah, I'd probably say I'm kind of sitting down a similar route in terms of like I'm big on moving well and like feeling good. Like there's no point lifting ridiculously heavy if you're in pain and agony for days afterwards. Like obviously, probably from my background with a lot of injuries, I have to adapt my training to fit me. Like, everyone's different. I have clients who have got like joint issues who are a little bit older, like some of them got arthritis and stuff. Then obviously you got the young athletes, but the young athletes are probably the ones who you want to work with the most because you want to prevent them from getting to that point. So it's just like, yes, they might be fine doing ridiculously heavy stuff to failure, like, I don't know, stupid things like a set of 20 leg press going into like back squats straight after, like something stupid where you can get injured. But down the line, that's going to catch up with them. So having that kind of ability to yes, train with intensity and obviously provide enough stimulus that you're going to make the adaptations that you want, but also make sure they can do that when they're 30, when they're 40, when they're 50, even when they're 70, like my client Colin, like I mentioned, being able to do it for your whole life and not being like the prime example is the Ronnie Coleman example. Like he's battered now and he's on God knows how many painkillers and stuff. You don't want to be that. It's all about longevity and stuff. So I think that kind of approach to fitness has become a lot more kind of popular these days. But the functional side of training as well, definitely.
Well, and I think like when you first mentioned your client Colin there, like I was excited. I was thinking like, oh, what was the prompt for him? Like, what was it that made him? And if it was him getting retired and going, I want to be able to move well and and look after myself a little bit more. That excites me because I just think like, good on them. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like there's no number on it. Like you have to start, like you mentioned earlier. And it's about like that better sense of like life, like being able to live your life how you want it. And like you use that example of Ronnie Coleman, yeah, he's absolutely goosed. And it's sad really because he's this icon and he still will be. But I mean, he sacrificed his life and his well-being.
Yeah, it's
And
like you said, he's a role model. So there's probably going to be people now who are training like he was because they're inspired by him. Like we need to kind of understand that. And well, obviously, it's great that he's an idol. He's done some amazing things, and what he's achieved with his Olympias and his physique was incredible. But if we kind of teach the younger generation that, you know what, we're back on. It's every 15 minutes, you know, because I'm looking on the timer. Every 15 minutes, I'll give you a heads up. If we end up going another 15 minutes, I'll give you a heads up. But back to the point in terms of should have a little timer next to your desk. Yeah, for anybody listening to the podcast, the lights keep on going out if we're wondering what you're laughing at. So watch it on YouTube if you haven't. But yeah, back to the point, obviously people are going to be inspired and stuff and want to train like Ronnie Coleman, like lifting ridiculously heavy. The form's probably not going to be great and they're going to end up picking them injuries. But if we can educate the younger generation, like, you know what, there's another way to train that you're going to probably get pretty decent results, but you're also going to be able to do it for a lot longer time and you're going to be able to play with your grandkids and move around. So it might be like maybe 1 or 2%. But to be fair, it's probably going to be just as effective because you're going to be able to do it for longer. That's the big thing.
I mean, like you said, I think a key word that you said, like it's about educating people. And I think because, I mean, yeah, Ronnie Coleman's physique at his peak, whereas trying to sell this idea of, look, you can move well for longer. It's not really like a sexy sell, is it? Like people are like, oh, yeah, great. But I could look like that if I wanted to. All right, then. It's not as easy as like a pitch, but then when you start getting into it, I think, and I've found it as well personally, and you probably have yourself, after initially somebody might come in and go, right, I want 6-pack, I want to drop X amount of pounds. And then a month into it, 2 months into it, they kind of look back and you go, do you know what it is? I really like appreciate how well I can move and how well I'm living now. And you're like, that's what I was trying to get you to do anyway.
Yeah.
Now you're appreciating it, but it's, again, you can't go, can you imagine how well and how easy stairs could be, or how easy it would be to carry your shopping in, or whatever.
It's not as like sexy and attractive as like 6-pack muscles, all that sort of stuff. But it's the little things like that. And it's also the little things that a lot of people want to get down to a certain weight. Like I've got clients like, I want to be 60 kilograms, I want to be this, that, and the other. But I got clients who they've been working with me. That was in their head. That's what they wanted originally. But then they lose a few kilograms, they move better, and probably build a little bit of muscle. And they're like, you know what, my clothes are feeling better on me now. Like the dress that I couldn't fit in for years fits me now. These trousers, whatever it is. So it kind of changed. I'm like, that's what we're aiming for. We're not bothered about the number on the scales. We're bothered about that because that's what's going to change your life and make you a lot happier. So yeah, it's getting people to buy into the process, and then they'll end up realizing down the line that the goal that they once they had it at one point might not be actually what they really did truly want.
This touches on like finite and infinite thinking. So if we have a finite goal, so right, I want to be 10 pounds lighter. Okay, when we achieve that, like X, Y, Z happens. But if you set yourself an infinite goal, a goal in which you will never kind of like hit effectively. For instance, right, I want to be able to move better. I want to be able to get stronger. I want to be able to be more efficient. I think that's something that you'll get further down the line and you'll just continually go down that line. Like it's infinite. You'll never really achieve fitness. Do you know what I mean? You just get fitter. But if your goal is finite, I think that's where people are so tuned into and they go, right, I need to be 10 pounds lighter, or I need to fit into this size, whatever, or I need to see my abs. Like, yeah, they're finite goals. Great that you can have them, but they need to be part of a bigger infinite goal. Yeah, they can be little measurables to get us along that infinite goal, but I think to be able to recognize an infinite goal is more powerful, absolutely, and it's arguably more important than just hitting these little. But again, people tend to come to yourself and me with these finite thinking goals, these short-term X is where I need to be, when it's not always like that.
Yeah, but it's like I said, it's just buying into the process. Then they will learn down the line. A lot of people do start with that certain goal, and then they will develop a different kind of intent down the line. So last topic before we wrap up, a little bit about life outside of fitness, because a lot of people get so caught up in it. Like I myself, I'm terrible. Like at the minute, my life balance isn't really great. What's yours like currently? What's it been? Because obviously you talked about your time when you were at school and you were working from like 7 till 9 at night or something like that.
Yeah.
How was it back then compared to kind of things that you do now to make it a bit better?
I think it's definitely more balanced now. Like I say, I mean, I've only came in the training club full time. Obviously, I was here a lot, and anyway, this is at least week 2 effectively. But already, me and Ross have imposed like a structure that we're going to follow. And I mean, life of a PT or a coach is it is what it is. I mean, you do work long days, you do work split shifts. Kind of is how it is. It's not this £60,000 a year industry, whatever, that you get sold of this dream, especially not if you're in it for the right reasons. And I think my structure now, or at least since I left that kind of aspect of work life, school life, and kind of PT life, was manic then. It's definitely a lot more balanced now, and I think it's important to include things into your life that are really separate, like you say, separate from work, separate from whatever. So some things that I do, and I make sure I'll absolutely do these at least 2-3 times a week. Things like riding the motorbike. So for me, that's a good little thing. It's where I get a zone out. There's literally only me, only the task at hand, everything else. Other things that are very similar are surfing. So I like to surf, but it's the same thing. You zone out, you've got to focus on the task. If not, a wave's going to smash you, or you can drown. So you've got to really focus. Cold water exposure, so going for a swim in the sea. Other things are like walking the dogs and something, and putting a podcast in, or an audio book, and just totally losing yourself. And just give yourself that time to waste time. Effectively, like I think we all need that, and it kind of comes back to that bucket theory thing, in that you need that balance. I think if you don't, you'll end up as stressed as I was, trying to balance all those things, and probably hitting that point where I had one of those flare-ups and stuff. But it's definitely important to get balance. And for me, I'm big on family. Like I say, I'm the youngest out of 4, so family's really important. I've got 3 nieces and a nephew, and I love just spending time with them and just being around them. And again, my family and my missus and my dogs. I'm a big fan of dogs. Like I say, Lola.
I know. I don't know if you can hear my little one chewing a bone the whole time. I hope she's not too loud. She's down.
I can't hear. But yeah, mate, like again, like it's important to just like allow yourself these things. And I've seen that firsthand. And I mean, I'll use Ross as an example. I'm sure you'll not mind. But he's somebody who his work rate is tenacious. Like hats off to him. I give him all the credit he deserves for grafting his arse off all the time. But something he doesn't do enough of is give himself some time to kind of decompress everything and just and it'll allow him to reset in focus. And I think actually, to give him credit, he started to do that more and more, to just give himself that opportunity to reset. And like say him or me are examples of why it's important to include that. So yeah, other than that, I mean, I always say this jokingly, but semi-seriously, I'm pretty boring, really. Like, I go on a motorbike by myself, I walk the dogs with an audio book in, or I'll surf or something. And there's only you.
I'm all for that sort of stuff. I'm a lonely bastard as well, mate. I hardly see anybody. Like when I came around to your gym and stuff, you said like our socializing time is like training. Like that's what I enjoy. Like I have realized how much I've missed it with all the lockdowns and stuff. I said that was the first time when I came out the yards that I've trained with people in since what was it, December, like before actual like COVID and like the third lockdown, sorry. So that's like our social time. That's what we enjoy doing things. And I'm the same. Like I like to do I do the cold showers and stuff like that in the morning. I like to do my stretching, yoga, listen to podcasts and go for walks with Laura and the dog in the morning. Like little things like that. Like I love doing them because it just switches you off and kind of does give you that mental reset. And like you mentioned with the situation Ross was in, I've been in that situation when you've been working like absolute mad and you're constantly tired, you're not thinking straight, and you're kind of like, you're doing things, but you're not doing them to the best ability that you know you can. So like trying to focus a bit more on my sleep, which is a big thing that people obviously neglect. And when you are busy and you end up having one or too many coffees and stuff down, you're just in a constant state of stress and fatigue. Like giving yourself that time, even if it's just 2 or 3, like just give yourself a weekend, like every so often, just to be like, you know what, I'm switching off. And you'll find when it comes to that Monday, you're like, right, I'm ready. Right, my brain's thinking this, that, and the other, and you'll come up with better ideas, especially in the world of fitness and personal training. You're working long hours, and it is a grind at times. You're up early. You're sometimes in the gym. You don't finish till 9, half 9 sometimes if you're training that late. But it is tough. But balance is massively important. Something that we can all probably learn to be better at, because we're probably influenced by people you see on social media who are constantly grind, doing stuff. You can't be like that all the time. We'll touch on quickly about your. Sorry, were you going to say something? Sorry.
No, I was just going to say I completely agree. I think like when you see some people, it's a highlight reel, isn't it?
Yeah.
Of like, oh, look what I'm doing. I'm grinding. And again, we probably live in this age, like I've mentioned, everyone wants to be an entrepreneur or do their own thing, which is awesome. But to the levels where social media portrays, it's effectively a lot of the time either unrealistic or unhealthy. I mean, yeah, you can be awesome and be on the grind, but you're going to be burning this candle at both ends eventually.
Yeah, it's definitely, especially in terms of like productivity and stuff, you'd rather have good quality stuff than just hammering stuff out, which is just like for the sake of it, which you can get into the habit of so easy. We'll quickly touch on last thing before we'll wrap up with the 3 questions. Are you completely sober? Because we had a little chat at the gym. Are you stone cold sober for a few years sobriety?
I mean, yeah. Whenever I mention this, right, I always feel like people must think I was like an alcoholic before, but
no, I'm more for it. To be fair, I'm all for anything like that. So, you're stone cold sober. Stone cold. Don't drink at all. Right. So what's the reason behind it? Because I've seen it kind of crop up a little bit more with people for productivity. Like I've been doing probably it's only been 2 months. Like I feel like I've achieved something amazing doing 2 months, but it helps so much with your productivity, honestly. But what was your reasons behind it?
I mean, again, I'm pretty boring like me, so I haven't really got a reason. I mean, when I was younger, I mean, you go out with your mates and they would all get cans or whatever from the corner shop, like that cringy moment where people go, will you go in the shop for us? Something like that. I'm sure that happens everywhere. If not, maybe it's just Pennywell School. But yeah, and then I would always be like there, like not doing it and be like, nah, I'm fine. I mean, like, say I went to Pennywell School, so school was 95% chavs and all my mates were chavs really. And then I'll be sat there in my jeans, looking like I'm in with the wrong crowd. They were all drinking their cans of Fosters or whatever. And I'm like, nah, I'm fine. And then they would be getting whatever narcotics out. And then literally as teenagers. And then in adulthood, I think I went out. I think I probably waited until my 18th birthday to go out. And I can safely say I've probably been in Sunderland Town Centre less than 20 times in my life. And I've been to Newcastle twice. And once was sober. And it's still a good time. And then back in 2016, I was like, you know what it is? It never does anything for me. I never get in on a Friday, not looking forward to the weekend kind of person. I'm not in going, what I could do with a cold beer. Never ever been like that. And never touched drugs or anything, and never had a single drag of a cigarette. And it just doesn't do anything for me. And people always ask me like, well, oh, why? And I'm like, I ain't got a reason. I mean, just not me. And I think, again, kind of reflects back to if I've got my mind to something, I'm not going to be peer pressured or influenced. I'm just going to do me. And so it's been over 5 years now. 2016 is the last time. And I never crave it. The only thing I do crave, I mean, my vice would be Pepsi Max, which is bad now.
Pepsi Max, Pepsi over Coke, man. Pepsi Max is a different level compared. Yeah, 100%. I'm agreed.
People are like, oh, it's got a spot me in, and I'm like, look, I've never smoked. I don't drink. I mean, I train near enough every single day. I eat right. If a spot of me is going to kill me, let it. If that's the one thing that's going to get me, I mean, I'll take my chances. But
Yeah, I know. There's a good thing that I hear about like people going sober and stuff. Alcohol is the only drug that people, when you don't do it, think like, what the fuck's wrong? Like, this is there something wrong with you kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's the only drug in the world where people judge you for not doing it. Like, if you don't do cocaine, it's like, oh yeah. If you don't smoke, it's like, oh well, obviously, like I understand that. But alcohol, like, oh, there's something wrong with you. Like, I don't understand the big thing. I think it's been a bit more accepted because I've seen Chris Williamson, who does the Modern Wisdom podcast, I listen to this. He's a big believer in sobriety and stuff like that for productivity more than anything, which is what I've found. Because you're losing a day in a sense. Oh, no worries, mate.
Just I'll literally set my watch for like 15 minutes, and it's just approaching.
Is it went up? Is it just about? Like, it's a good time, and I like that. We're chatting away too much. That's what it is. But yeah, in terms of like you're not wasting a day. Like, if you're going out on a Saturday or a Friday night, your Saturday or Sunday is going to be ruined, isn't it? It's probably going to carry on to the next day. And I think a lot of people get into the habit of going out, like just having a drink on a Friday night after a 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. Like, they just get into the habit of it. It's like like a thing that they don't even think about. Like, oh yeah, let's go to the pub. Let's go out on a Friday, Saturday night, because it's like they might not be 100% happy in what they're doing. And I know like the kind of mindset I've been in like at the minute is, why do I need to drink? Like, there's no reason, because I'm happy with what I'm doing. If anything, it's going to stop me from being productive the next day. And it's going to stop me, not just in terms of like my business, in terms of like, I do a lot of my online stuff on Sundays or the weekend. Like by Monday, my training's probably not going to be as good. My sleep's not going to be as optimal. And I'm very kind of OCD with everything. I need everything to be kind of 100%. So even if I have a late night on a Saturday night, I'm like, my Sunday's slightly ruined. So there's loads and loads of negatives to it. I understand. I enjoy a drink every so often. Like, if it's a special occasion, or like I've been looking forward to something for a while. Like, if I end up going on holiday next year, I'm probably going to have a drink. But in terms of like just doing it for the sake of it, I don't understand it. It's just kind of being so socially accepted, and it's a social norm these days. That's why people do it. And like, fair play if you're doing it for so long, because a lot of people would not be able to do that.
Yeah, it probably is like, I mean, a sense of social conformity, effectively. I just want to say credit for going 2 months as well, because I remember like maybe 2-3 months into it, that's when people are still like, it's only been a month, it's only been 2 months, you've only done dry January or whatever. And that's when people are always in your ear. And now I'm at a point where people are, oh, you don't drink here? I'm like, yeah, finally. People just kind of accept and don't like push a beer on you or anything like that. But there's I mean, I've never ever drank enough to be sick, to have a hangover, to not remember the night before. I've never drank that much, so I think I've always kind of in the back of my mind going, don't really like enjoy this. And I've been on nights out and just stayed on Pepsi. I had my engagement party and literally just stayed on Pepsi Max. I mean, I had a great time.
I mean, if you have a good 5-6 Pepsis, there's a little bit of caffeine and you'll have a little bit of a buzz from it. Don't worry, there's a little bit of that.
But it's also like, go right, I'm gonna go home about now, and literally walk around the corner, get in your car, and just drive home, not waiting for a taxi or anything. And then some of your mates go, yeah, drop us off. Yeah, all right, no worries. Yeah, that's what I would have paid for a taxi. And you're like, mate, you've given us 20 quid. And they're like, nah, it's fine. All right, man.
I know. When they're pissed, they don't care, mate. It's just hilarious. But nah, I know. There's so many things. Like, I will probably have a drink. I might end up doing go completely sober eventually. I don't know that, but I might have a drink every so often. But I think if you can control it and just like, maybe for whatever occasion, if you look forward to it, then fair enough, enjoy it. But if you're doing it kind of like without even thinking, subconsciously, and just going straight for it, and it's impacting your life negatively to a point where you're so much better about it, I would just try and cut it out, or maybe just try and cut down to start with, and then it'll end up getting to a habit. And there's nothing wrong with it. Like I said, I will enjoy a drink, but there's probably more negatives than positive. It's probably a bit worrying if you're, say, for example, going out with a group of friends and you associate drinking with that group of friends, and you have to have a drink to have a good time. You're probably going to have a look at your friendship circle a little bit as well. That's another big thing. But anyway, mate, we'll wrap up the podcast. Did you have a look at the last 3 questions that I always ask everybody? Have you made a few little notes for it?
Do you ask these to everyone? Yeah?
I do ask them to everybody, mate. Don't worry. Unfortunately, you're not special. so last.
I just thought this was a cool way to end the podcast.
Sorry, mate. I've let you down massively, Anna. No, but it's a nice little way to end it. So first question: 3 people you like to invite round for dinner or go for a coffee with, past or present, or a Pepsi with maybe.
I'll go coffee all day. Yeah. I'll try again. Pick people from different avenues, and people who I either like kind of enjoy, or I think like I would really enjoy the company of. So I've gone for Lewis Hamilton. I'm a big, big fan of Lewis Hamilton. He gets loads of haters, but he also gets loads of people on his side. So he's a bit Marmite. You either hate him or love him, but I'm a big fan of him. Not just obviously his ability, but his tenacity, his work rate, but things he stands for as well. Kind of I agree with a lot of them. I've gone for Taylor Swift. So Taylor Swift, right? Don't laugh at me, mate. Don't laugh.
Nah, I'm waiting for this one. I'm interested.
Taylor Swift is the one artist that I've owned every single album, physical copy. And I mean, even the deluxe versions, like I've went and bought them again just so I've got deluxe versions. I mean, I don't know why. I'm just a big fan of Taylor Swift. And then Jim Carrey. Jim Carrey's got to be my favorite actor. And he's just dynamic. But again, like he's somebody who totally does him. And I think he went kind of like Jim Carrey about 5 years ago or something, and he's kind of a bit more free thinking and just his line of thinking, and I kind of like that about him. And obviously he's an outstanding actor. I'm sure like whatever roles you know him from, you can't imagine anybody else playing that role. He's just so unique, and bit random, but
nah, decent. Was it a childhood crush, by the way, Taylor Swift? Is that where it stemmed from?
I mean, I'm 30, mate. She's only like a year, 2 year older. I try to even, I'm getting married the 22nd of December next year.
Yeah.
I try to get my missus to rearrange it so it was on the 13th, because that's Taylor Swift's birthday.
Your missus must hate her, by the way. She must absolutely hate her. Oh, quality. Class. I love that. Right, next one. 3 people you want to train with.
Again, I'm going to bring up Arnold Schwarzenegger. I just think when you watch him, even in his prime and stuff, the way he would perform, it was to just different levels. And I think we have more evidence, and we have more data and stuff now than what he had in his prime. And of course, he was on like enhancements and stuff. You still got to put the graft in. I appreciate that. I just think the way he would perform movements, he was so in tune with his training. Even if you did a warm up with him, you'd learn something from him. So I can imagine like doing a full training session or training week with him, you'd just pick up so much information and learning. It would be insane. Other people I've gone for, I went for Matt Fraser, because he's obviously, he was 4-time world's fittest man. So again, he is well-rounded, and I know he's CrossFitty, and I'm not really CrossFitty, but you can still appreciate the work ethic and application that he does. And the last person I've gone for is Ross Edgley. Now, Ross Edgley, have you read his books or not?
I haven't read it, but I've seen he's got quite a few big ones. He does this like crazy sort of challenges sort of thing. Yeah.
So he's got a book called World's Fittest Book. I'm not commissioned, so I'm not plugging it for any reason, but he talks about how, it's when he swam around the UK. And if all you have to do is Google Ross Edgley swim and see the images, and you can see how much he pushed himself. And his shoulders are out here because of swimming, but he's also done a rope climb, the height of Mount Everest. And he's done some naughty challenges, but he went around the world and he was studying different training techniques in different countries, X, Y, and Z. And there's one chapter there, or one like little segment that really sticks with me. And it was, he went to this tribe or something, I want to say South America, somewhere like that. And he sat around this campfire, eating with them, eating what they ate, training how they had trained. And he said to them, he was like, so how old are you? Like to the guy who he's buddied with. And they just all start laughing at him. And he was like, what have I said? And he was like, I'll ask again. How old are you? And they start laughing again. He says, well, what have I said? And they turn around and were like, not a clue. We haven't got a clue. And he was like, what do you mean? So who's like the elder here? And they're like, no idea. And he was like, what a weird concept. And they turned around and were like, how old would you be if you didn't know how old you are? And I just thought that was such a deep, simple thing. Because physically, for myself personally, I don't feel 30-year-olds. I'm fitter, I'm stronger, I'm wiser than I was at 20, 21, 22. So I'm definitely in my body, early 20s, easy. But in my mind, I like to think I'm a little bit older. So if I didn't know how old I am, I probably wouldn't say 30. I might log it, but I mean, I definitely don't feel it. And I just thought that was such an interesting concept, which obviously I've remembered, so it's struck a chord with me.
Yeah, I'll have to check his stuff out, because I'm big on the podcast and stuff. So has he got a podcast? Do you know? Has he got a podcast? He might have been on a few. I'm gonna have to check a few out.
I think he's probably been on a few, yeah.
Yeah, I'll have to check. But I know of him and stuff.
Audiobooks.
Yeah, I'm fascinated by people who do them sort of crazy long challenges. Just where it puts your mind, and like I said, you will grow from it massive, like mentally, physically.
Done like eating challenges with Eddie Hall and stuff, and out-ate Eddie Hall. I mean, he's just, I don't know how he does it, but yeah.
That's class.
Yeah.
My God, then last one thing that you would say to yourself 10 years ago.
I wrote a note about this because I thought that's a good question. I wish I could, like you wish you could, don't you?
Yeah.
That's something that kind of sums up the conversation we've had. Really, it's gone deep at levels, and and lights have gone up at other levels. But it was believe in yourself a little bit more. You're capable of more than what you realise, and I think this is probably a message not just for myself, but a lot of other people, especially young people. Your insecurity and your doubt are your biggest limitations, and I think that goes for so many people. And it's only maybe in my late 20s, I mean I'm 30 now, that I really started to believe in my own ability and my own kind of capabilities and what you can kind of achieve. I think if I knew that 10 years ago, I maybe wouldn't have been this person who was skinny, insecure, had no charisma, had no confidence. It's something that I've had to kind of really work and build on. And I just kind of wish I could instill that in myself from 10 years prior. But again, like, it's really important to reflect and to just accept where you are and understand what you've achieved so far, whatever age you're at. And your potential it's not written, and having that faith and that belief in yourself, whether it's me for 10 years ago or whether it's anybody else listening, is so important. It's also important to reflect and appreciate how far you've came.
No, I like that, because when people do get stuck in a rut of like, oh, like things aren't going too well, but if you always look back and think, you know what, 2 years ago I didn't think that I was going to be in this position, so like always think that, because then you never know what you're capable of. You'll always push, and I always say, just never get comfortable. Always put yourself in them uncomfortable situations. You will grow from it. But very nice way to wrap up the podcast, mate. You do a little bit of Instagram. Shout your Instagram out. I will tag it down below in the comments in the show notes for people who want to give you a little follow on their Instagram.
Absolutely, mate. It's nice and simple. It's literally just Steve Hoggy, at Steve Hoggy, or you can find us at the training club. Check us out.
Perfect. Yeah, and if no one's checked out the anyone's checked out the YouTube video, I had a decent session, was it 2 weeks ago now, so that's up on YouTube. I'll link that down below as well, because I want to get a little bit more credit for it, because I was quite proud of my editing for that one, to be fair.
Yeah.
Little videographer for the day.
Cool. It was class.
That was good, mate. But absolute pleasure. Thanks for coming on, and obviously take your time out your day for coming on, mate.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Thank you for your time.
Yes.